this day our daily bread, and to the republic for which it stands, and by the power invested in me, I pronounce us ready to eat.
3 days. That's all that stood between you and never seeing Sister Act, ever. 72 hours before cameras rolled, Disney executives were ready to pull every single dollar. And that's just the beginning of what they never told you. This film, the one you've watched, rewatched, and sung along to, was built on broken ribs, haunted hallways, a grieving star, and one man's last-ditch act of desperation that staked his entire career on a bet nobody believed he could win. You think you know Sister Act? Stay with me, because by the time we hit secret number 1, you'll be watching this movie with completely different eyes. We're counting down 28 secrets about Sister Act hidden for decades, and the closer we get to number 1, the more your jaw is going to drop. Secret number 28. The script wasn't written for Whoopi Goldberg. Let's start where the whole story really begins. Not on a film set, but in a Hollywood negotiation room that turned ice cold. The role of Dolores Van Cartier was never written for Whoopi Goldberg. Screenwriter Paul Rudnick crafted every scene, every joke, every sequin-soaked moment with one specific woman in mind: Bette Midler. Touchstone Pictures loved it. Midler loved it. Contracts were drafted. And then the number came in. Midler wanted $8 million plus a cut of box office profits. The studio offered $5 million. Midler said no. 6 months of negotiations followed, with Midler also demanding director approval, script revision rights, and creative control. When talks finally collapsed, production was 3 months away, and Touchstone had no star and no plan. That's when Whoopi's agent made the call. Goldberg had an Oscar from The Color Purple, but was struggling to find great roles. The studio was skeptical, until her audition stopped everyone cold. She brought something Midler's version might never have had: vulnerability beneath the swagger, warmth that made you root for Dolores from the first frame. Goldberg accepted $4 million with no demands. She didn't just save the movie, she saved her own career, and gave us a performance that became a cultural landmark. Secret number 27. The nuns were real gospel singers, not actresses. When you watch those nuns transform from a tuneless choir into a gospel powerhouse, did you ever wonder how the music felt so real? Director Emile Ardolino had one rule: no dubbing. He wanted real voices, captured live. So he went to church, 30 churches across Los Angeles. He sat in pews and listened. He identified women who could do something rare, sing with power that a camera could actually feel. He assembled 17 women for his choir. Only 5 had any acting experience. The rest were teachers, accountants, and nurses who sang on Sunday mornings because it was their calling. They spent 6 weeks in intensive acting workshops before a single camera rolled, learning to hit marks, deliver dialogue on cue, and perform for a lens rather than a congregation. But when the music started, everything changed. The joy in their faces during those singing scenes isn't performance, it's genuine, and no amount of acting training could have manufactured that. Secret number 26. Whoopi Goldberg broke 3 ribs and didn't tell anyone. During the opening casino chase, Goldberg was executing a rehearsed slide behind a row of slot machines when she slammed into a support beam hidden behind them. The impact was immediate and brutal. She stayed in character, finished the take, breathed through it. When the director called cut, she collapsed. An ambulance took her to Cedars-Sinai. X-rays confirmed 3 fractured ribs on her left side. Doctors wanted to admit her. She refused. She was back on set the next morning in a compression wrap, telling nobody. Every comedy scene that followed, every laugh, every moment she had to project her voice, was filmed, while breathing caused pain. Her co-stars noticed she seemed stiff and uncomfortable. When she finally told them a week later, she made everyone swear to silence. The studio buried it entirely. Not one scheduled filming day was missed. Secret number 25. The Convent was an abandoned psychiatric hospital. Production designers had scoured Los Angeles for authentic convent locations. Most were too small. Many refused permission. Then someone found an abandoned psychiatric hospital in Glendale that had closed in 1985. The studio spent $200,000 transforming it. Religious artwork, crucifixes, stained glass, wooden pews, individual cells carved from former patient rooms. The institutional architecture photographed perfectly, but $200,000 couldn't cover the history soaked into the walls. The basement, where electroshock therapy had been administered, made crew members physically uncomfortable. Equipment malfunctioned in the same rooms repeatedly. Lights failed with fresh bulbs in them. Camera operators reported feeling watched in empty corridors. One makeup artist quit after claiming she saw a figure in a hospital gown in an unused wing. The assistant director dismissed it all as superstition, but quietly issued an instruction. Nobody works alone in this building after dark. The building was demolished 6 months after production wrapped and never appeared in a single piece of promotional material. Secret number 24. 12 crew members reported paranormal activity. The scale of what happened at that location goes deeper than one frightened makeup artist. 12 separate crew members, sound engineers, lighting technicians, camera operators, independently reported paranormal experiences. A sound technician working alone at night heard footsteps in an empty corridor. When he followed them, they followed him back. A lighting tech saw a shadowy figure in nun's clothing in a doorway that vanished when he approached. The most unnerving incident involved 3 people at once. During a night shoot, a production assistant, an electrician, and a script supervisor all heard a woman singing from somewhere deep in the building. They followed the sound together and traced it to an empty room. The moment they stepped inside, the singing stopped. All at once, Ardolino refused to acknowledge any of it publicly, but several crew members refused to return for pickup shots, demanding scenes be moved elsewhere. They were. Secret number 23. Maggie Smith rejected the role 3 times. Every frame Maggie Smith appears in as Mother Superior feels inevitable. That rigid posture, that withering glance, the extraordinary moment when her composure finally cracks. It's impossible to imagine anyone else. It almost wasn't her. Smith rejected the part 3 times, calling it a silly American comedy, with a stereotypical character lacking real depth. After the 3rd rejection, Ardolino flew to London. He brought a revised script with expanded scenes and promised Smith creative freedom to develop the character's internal conflict, a woman at war with herself, duty on one side, desire for change on the other. Smith agreed to a reading with Goldberg, just to test the chemistry. The 2 actresses found each other immediately, Goldberg's irreverence bouncing off Smith's formality in a way that felt electric. When it was over, Smith said yes, conditionally. Script approval for all her scenes, a 6-week filming window. The studio agreed to everything. After that reading, there was no other choice. Secret number 22. My Guy was captured in a single take. The moment the nuns tear into My Guy and turn it into a gospel revelation is arguably the most joyful 4.5 minutes in 90s cinema. That entire performance was captured in one unbroken take. Ardolino had planned elaborate multi-camera coverage across multiple shooting days. The night before filming, he changed his mind. Breaking the performance apart would kill it. He positioned 4 cameras around the chapel and told the cast, start to finish, no stopping. The choir was thrilled. Goldberg was nervous. The first attempt failed when a camera operator tripped over a cable. The second was killed by a lighting failure. The 3rd take was perfect, energy building naturally as the choir gained confidence, joy becoming contagious, Goldberg feeding off their excitement in real time. When Ardolino called cut, the entire cast and crew erupted. He watched the playback 3 times, found nothing to improve. That take, with minor color correction, is what you've been watching all these years. Secret number 21. Harvey Keitel's method. Acting terrified everyone. Harvey Keitel didn't play a villain in Sister Act. He became one. From the moment he arrived, he stayed in character between takes, during meals, breaks, casual conversation. He stared. He growled. He made unsettling comments that left actors genuinely unsure whether he was performing or threatening them. Goldberg initially assumed it was a misguided bonding exercise. When she realized he was serious, she complained to Ardolino. Keitel explained calmly that if he dropped the persona off camera, the menace wouldn't survive to the next scene. The compromise: complete isolation, separate trailer, meals alone. No interaction with other actors until scenes required it. The unintended consequence? When Keitel appeared for confrontation scenes, the other actors were genuinely frightened, not performing fear, actually feeling it. That fear is on screen. When production wrapped, Keitel dropped the persona immediately and apologized to everyone. Most understood. Some didn't forgive him for months. Secret number 20. The Pope personally blessed the film. Touchstone was nervous about Catholic organizations organizing boycotts, so they went straight to the top. Through diplomatic channels, they requested a private Vatican screening. In April 1992, a delegation of cardinals and bishops watched Sister Act in a Vatican screening room. They found it respectful, uplifting, and genuine in its portrayal of faith. They reported their approval to Pope John Paul II, who agreed to watch it personally, an exceptionally rare action for a sitting pope viewing secular entertainment. He reportedly laughed throughout. The Vatican issued a formal statement calling it a joyful celebration of faith and music. For Touchstone's marketing team, this was the endorsement of a lifetime. Conservative religious groups stood down. Families who trusted the Vatican's judgment bought tickets. The Pope's blessing didn't just protect the film, it made it a phenomenon. Secret number 19. Kathy Najimy's character was based on a real nun. Sister Mary Patrick, bouncing, beaming, overflowing with goodwill, wasn't invented. She was remembered. Paul Rudnick based the character directly on Sister Mary Catherine, a fourth-grade teacher at St. Agnes School in New York during the 1960s. She sang lessons. She danced at recess. Young Rudnick adored her. Decades later, writing Sister Act, he reached back and found her again. When Sister Mary Catherine finally watched the film after it became a cultural phenomenon, she insisted the movie version was much funnier than she'd ever been. Rudnick eventually wrote her a letter. She wrote back by hand, blessing his career and thanking him for honoring teachers everywhere. Secret number 18. 5 composers rejected the musical arrangements. The gospel arrangements feel seamless, like My Guy always had a call and response waiting inside it. But 5 professional composers tried and failed before anyone got it right. The first refused outright, believing the concept disrespected gospel music. The second delivered something that sounded like parody. The third and fourth were technically competent, but had no soul. The fifth quit after 2 weeks. 6 weeks from the start of filming, production had no usable music. Mark Shaman was their last option. He spent 2 weeks researching church services, gospel history, conversations with choir directors. His approach: treat the source material with complete respect and find where it already wanted to go. His arrangements were approved immediately. They are why the musical sequences don't just entertain, they move you. Secret. Number 17. The choir costumes cost more than Whoopi's entire wardrobe. The nun habits worn by the 17-member choir cost $150,000 total. Whoopi Goldberg's entire costume budget, every lounge singer dress, every street outfit, came in at $120,000. The habits were more expensive than the star. Costume designer Molly McInnes commissioned a Pennsylvania manufacturer that typically made habits for actual convents. 7 hand-stitched pieces per nun, heavyweight wool serge, each complete habit at $8,800. Production ordered 3 complete sets per actress, tripling the budget but proving necessary when habits were torn during physical comedy rehearsals. Producers pushed back. McInnes held firm. The habits aren't background. They're a character. She was right. Those costumes became iconic worldwide. Secret number 16. Bill Duke improvised the entire confrontation scene. The scene where Lieutenant Souther backs Dolores into a corner and forces her to confront the real danger she's in is one of the film's most genuinely tense moments. None of that dialogue was in the script. The original scene was a few lines of functional exposition. Ardolino told Duke during rehearsal to throw the script away. Duke built a performance where professional restraint cracks open to reveal genuine fear for Dolores' safety, using his physical presence to crowd the space, to make the threat feel embodied. Goldberg wasn't expecting the intensity on the first take. Her surprise is in her face. That's not acting. They filmed 8 takes. The final version combines 3 of them, and Duke's improvised dialogue was so strong, the screenwriter borrowed similar language for the sequel. Secret number 15, the final concert scene, took 2 weeks to film. The climactic sequence, the nuns performing for the Pope, took 14 days to shoot. Ardolino storyboarded 270 individual shots. He needed 400 extras for 2 straight weeks and live musical performance with no lip-syncing. The choir sang the full medley 47 times over those 2 weeks. Several members developed laryngitis. The extras were visibly depleted by day 4. Lighting failures caused repeated complete restarts. Every technical problem meant resetting hundreds of people. Ardolino refused to settle. 14 days of tension and exhaustion produced the most visually and emotionally stunning sequence in the film. Every second was earned. Secret number 14. Whoopi Goldberg rewrote 60% of her dialogue. The sharpest lines in Sister Act, the exchanges with Mother Superior, the streetwise quips, the moments where Dolores feels too specific to be fictional. Goldberg wrote most of them herself. At the first table read, she started deviating immediately. Not out of difficulty, but because the scripted lines didn't fit her voice. Ardolino noticed every improvised line she delivered was funnier than the page. He gave her permission to rewrite her scenes with one condition: keep the story structure. She worked late every night reworking the next day's dialogue. She made Dolores sharper, more street-smart, and added cultural specificity the white screenwriter hadn't included, vernacular and references that made the character feel complete rather than generic. Rudnick received sole screenplay credit. Goldberg's fingerprints are on every moment that made you fall in love with Dolores. Secret number 13. The film was originally rated R. The version of Sister Act that Ardolino originally made was rated R, and it wasn't close. The MPAA screened the first cut in January 1992 and stamped it. Keitel's dialogue was significantly more graphic. Several scenes contained sexual innuendo. The casino sequences included content that disqualified a family rating entirely. Touchstone panicked. Their entire marketing strategy was built around PG. They ordered immediate reshoots. Every Keitel scene revisited, casino footage digitally obscured using early computer effects, jokes, cut, and replaced. The reshoots cost $2 million and pushed release back 6 weeks. Ardolino privately felt the changes softened the comedy's edge. He was probably right about the art. The PG rating let families in, and families made Sister Act one of the biggest hits of 1992. Secret number 12. Lauryn Hill made her uncredited film debut here, before the few G's, before Killing Me Softly, before the Grammy sweep. Lauryn Hill was 16 years old, attending Columbia High School in New Jersey, already singing professionally in small venues. When casting visited New York area schools for real singers to fill the student choir sequences, Hill auditioned and was selected. She appears in several scenes at the Catholic school, visible in the background during choir practice, in her school uniform. No dialogue. Ardolino noticed her natural screen presence and considered expanding her role, then decided against it. Her name appeared in original production paperwork but was omitted from final credits, standard for background performers without dialogue. The information only surfaced years later when film researchers found her name in production documents and identified her face in background shots. Secret number 11. The studio nearly canceled everything. 72 hours before filming, 3 days. That's how close Sister Act came to never existing. 72 hours before scheduled production, Disney's corporate executives reviewed the numbers and reacted. The budget had climbed from $18 million to $23 million. Disney was under financial strain from box office disappointments and theme park construction costs. Corporate sent an order down: cut aggressively or cancel. Touchstone Pictures. President David Hoberman received it directly. Cancel Sister Act unless you can guarantee profitability. Hollywood's prevailing and wrong wisdom held that films with black female leads couldn't succeed internationally. The concept seemed niche at best. Hoberman staked his career. He personally guaranteed the film would earn back its budget. His professional reputation was the collateral. Disney blinked and allowed production to proceed. The cast and crew started filming with no idea how close they'd come to never starting at all. Secret number 10. Whoopi Goldberg's mother died during production. 4 weeks into filming, Whoopi Goldberg's mother, Emma Johnson, suffered a stroke at her home in New York. 3 days later, without regaining consciousness, she died. Emma Johnson had been her daughter's first believer, the person who encouraged the comedy career from the very beginning. Goldberg flew to New York immediately. Production shut down. 5 days after her mother's death, Goldberg called Ardolino. She needed to return. Sitting still with grief was unbearable. She came back, and everyone on set could see what she was carrying. Between takes, she sat alone in silence. Maggie Smith, who had maintained formal off-camera distance through most of production, spent hours with Goldberg talking about grief and loss. Kathy Najimy made it her personal mission to pull smiles out of her during breaks. The production became something it hadn't been before, a family. Goldberg later said that finishing Sister Act was how she survived that period. The scene where Dolores comforts a discouraged nun carries genuine warmth from real pain. She dedicated the film to her mother's memory. Secret number 9. The original ending was dark and unresolved. Ardolino's original final scene showed Dolores, after testifying, after everything, performing again in a new casino. The camera slowly pulled back to reveal her alone in the crowd, unchanged. The message: real change is hard. Most people don't make it. Preview audiences were brutal. They felt cheated. Touchstone ordered a complete reshoot. Ardolino argued that his version was truer. The studio told him what audiences wanted, and what they wanted was hope. The reshoot cost $400,000 and took 3 days. Ardolino directed those scenes with visible reluctance. But years later, he admitted the studio was right. The happy ending is why Sister Act still resonates 30 years on. His darker version would have been forgotten. Secret number 8. The performance you never fully understood. Watch Sister Act now with everything you know. The stiffness in some scenes isn't direction. It's 3 fractured ribs. The moments of unexpected stillness, of a look that goes somewhere distant. That's fresh grief, undisguised. The scene with the discouraged nun carries warmth no director could have scripted into existence. Dolores Van Cartier became more three-dimensional than anyone planned because the woman playing her was carrying more than anyone knew. Goldberg didn't perform through hardship. She transformed it. Secret number 7. The director's hidden legacy. Emile Ardolino isn't discussed alongside the great directors of his era, but consider what he navigated. A traumatized star, a method-acting villain who terrorized the cast, a haunted shooting location, a ratings battle that nearly ended the film, and a studio that wanted to cancel everything before a frame was shot. His decision to shoot My Guy in a single take was an act of faith. His willingness to let Goldberg rewrite her dialogue was recognition that the best film was the one playing to her actual gifts. His original darker ending showed an artist thinking beyond the formula. Ardolino died in November 1993, just over a year after Sister Act was released. He was 50 years old. Sister Act was one of his last films. It deserves to be remembered as one of his best. Secret number 6. What the Vatican really recognized. Underneath the comedy, the gospel sequences, and the mob plot, Sister Act is a film about transformation, about what happens when someone who has been running from everything is finally forced to stay still long enough to change, about communities that accept people who don't fit, about faith expressed through action and music and showing up, not doctrine and rules. The Vatican saw that. Their endorsement wasn't just smart marketing, it was accurate. And it's why this film has lasted where louder, bigger, more expensive films from the same era have been completely forgotten. Secret number 5. The franchise that almost wasn't. Sister Act earned $231 million on a $23 million budget. Sister Act 2 was greenlit within months. Lauryn Hill, the uncredited background student from the first film, was cast in a speaking role in the sequel and delivered one of the most iconic vocal performances in any 90s music film. The stage musical has run worldwide for 2 decades. All of it flows backward to a negotiation that collapsed over $3 million and creative control. If Bette Midler's deal had closed, we might have gotten a very good film. We would not have gotten this one. Secret number 4. The secret that changes how you watch it. Go back and watch Sister Act now knowing what you know. Watch Goldberg in the casino chase and understand she's moving with 3 fractured ribs. Watch the scenes filmed after she returned from New York and understand she's working through the first weeks of grief. Watch the choir perform My Guy, and understand those women are not actresses performing joy. They are singers experiencing it in real time. Watch Maggie Smith and understand you're watching a 3-time refusal made into a masterclass. Watch Harvey Keitel and understand the fear of him on screen was not performed. It was earned through weeks of genuine unease on a film set. Sister Act is a better film than it was designed to be. It became what it is through accident, resilience, grief, and stubbornness. Secret number 3, the argument that made the film. Paul Rudnick wrote the script. Whoopi Goldberg rewrote the dialogue. Emil Ardolino directed the vision. Mark Shaman composed the music. A choir of real gospel singers performed it. A British actress who refused 3 times found the emotional center. A method actor who terrified everyone made the danger real. No single person made Sister Act. It was an argument between a director and a studio, between a screenwriter and a star, between artistic vision and commercial instinct, between grief and laughter. Every secret in this countdown is a record of that argument. The film that came out the other side is better than any one of them could have made alone. Secret number 2, the numbers that proved everyone wrong. $23 million budget, $231 million worldwide. A 10-fold return that silenced every executive who cited mixed track records for music comedies. Every voice that claimed certain stories couldn't travel internationally. Every person who looked at the numbers 3 days before filming and said, "This isn't worth the risk." The numbers didn't just make the sequel possible. They changed the conversation about who gets to be the lead of a major Hollywood film. Sister Act didn't just succeed, it argued back, loudly, with receipts. Secret number 1, the 72-hour window that changed everything. We come back to where we started, because this is the secret that contains all the others. 3 days before filming, a corporation looked at the numbers and decided it didn't make sense. An African-American female lead, a music comedy, a premise that seemed bizarre, a budget $5 million over the estimate. Easy call, cancel it. David Hoberman said no. He said, "I stake my career on this. Let it go forward." Think about what depended on that one decision. Whoopi Goldberg's career revival, Maggie Smith's finest comedic performance, the screen debut of Lauryn Hill, a real nun's legacy honored through Kathy Najimy's character, the single live take that captured something you feel but cannot explain, the grief that became depth, the pain that became authenticity, the $231 million that proved every skeptic wrong about what audiences wanted, about who they wanted to see on screen, and about what kinds of stories deserve to be told. Sister Act isn't just a comedy about a lounge singer hiding in a convent. It's a film that almost didn't exist, made by people who were injured, grieving, terrified, and stubborn enough to keep going anyway. Now you know what you're actually watching. Bonus: the legacy nobody predicted. Here's something worth sitting with as this countdown ends. When Sister Act opened in May 1992, the critical reception was polite at best. Reviewers acknowledged it as entertaining, warm, and well-performed, but nobody was calling it a classic. It was a summer comedy, agreeable, disposable, the kind of film that plays well on a Tuesday afternoon and fades quietly from the cultural conversation by autumn. That's not what happened. 3 decades on, Sister Act is still playing on television around the world every single week. The stage musical has been performed in dozens of countries, translated into multiple languages, and introduced the story to generations that weren't born when the original film was released. School choirs still perform I Will Follow Him at concerts. The gospel arrangements that 5 composers refused to write have become part of the cultural furniture, so embedded in popular consciousness that most people who know them couldn't tell you exactly where they first heard them. Why? Because secrets have a way of surfacing in the work itself, even when nobody discusses them publicly. Audiences didn't know about the fractured ribs or the grief or the 72-hour cancellation scare, but they felt something in the film that they couldn't quite name. An authenticity, a weight beneath the laughter, a sense that the people making it were giving something real rather than manufacturing something comfortable. That feeling is explained by everything in this countdown. The gospel singers who weren't actresses but brought church real joy to every frame. The British actress whose refusal became commitment. The star who channeled personal devastation into a performance that made strangers in darkened cinemas feel less alone. The director who protected all of it, held it together, and died before he got the credit he deserved. Sister Act wasn't engineered. It was survived. And the proof is in the fact that you're still watching it, still knowing every word of those songs, still feeling something when the music starts that you'd struggle to explain but would never want to give up. That's not the result of a successful studio formula. That's what happens when real people, under real pressure, make something that matters more than anyone expected, including themselves. Now go watch it again. You'll see it differently, and we think you'll love it even more. Which secret surprised you most? Drop it in the comments, and if you think there are secrets we missed, tell us. This film has been hiding things for over 30 years, and we may have only scratched the surface.